Lilia, right? Lily?
Okay, we're on. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Welcome to the Georgetown School Committee meeting of Thursday, October 25th. Says 26th, I knew it was the 25th.
Oh, dear, what happened to
25th,
that?
2018. If we could please all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, thank you all for coming out this evening. Before we go on to our business for the evening, I am going to make a motion to approve regular session minutes of October 11th, 2018, safety subcommittee minutes of October 11th, 2018, and accept warrants number 18P19 and 17V19.
So moved. Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Okay, this evening, we are going to have a couple of our students here, and I'm thrilled to have them here. So I am gonna ask that, Gabby, Reel, if you wanna come on up with your friends, Lily.
We'll just pull up a chair here.
And this is Alexis. Correct?
Yeah.
Thank you for coming out tonight.
Yes.
I'm excited to hear everything that you have to tell us. I'm sorry about your leg. That's okay. Last soccer game tonight, right?
Oh, did you just do that today?
Yeah, I sprained my knee.
Oh, boy.
Sorry.
In today's game?
It's okay.
Oh, well,
you win?
take care of
Of
it.
ice or something on it?
I'm sorry.
Well, that was very nice of you to still come out tonight. So, thank you very much for your email. I appreciate it. Mrs. Lundquist sent it over to me, and I was thrilled that you guys wanted to talk to the school committee about things that are going on in the school. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing?
So basically, pretty much the whole junior class and a couple of seniors, I think, are doing a nonpartisan voting drive in Georgetown. So it tries to get everybody who doesn't vote to vote. So pretty much it talks about absentee ballots, which a lot of people don't do at all. So we Gabby sent an email out to all of the former students that aren't registered. We had a list. Just to tell them about like the process and to inform them of how they would actually be able to do it, to try to like encourage them to do it more. And then there are a couple different groups. It's broken up into, there's like a social media group. We have a website, we have Instagram, Snapchat, Facebook, and it just kind of talks about the upcoming events and like kind of describes what we are planning on doing. And then there's a couple groups that actually do hold events. Like there was a table to set up to register voters at the school at lunches, so that it pre-registered. You can pre-register when you get your permits. When you turn 16, you can pre-register, and it registers all the kids who are able to vote over 18. And then there was a register table set up at the library a couple weeks ago that had people come in, and then you could help them register, just because some people don't understand the process.
Mm-hmm.
And so pretty much, and then there is a press group. That's the group that I'm in. We're pretty much all broken up into different groups, and we do most of the work outside of class because we actually have to learn the history part too, and it's through our history class.
Mm-hmm.
So what we did, we had a meeting with the one of the writers at the newspaper, and they did an article on us.
Mm-hmm. That was great.
Yeah, and then we have Mr. Richards is actually planning on publishing a couple like upcoming events in his blog, because a lot of the parents read it too, so just to inform them. And yeah.
That's great. Now, who facilitated this? Like, did you guys come together, or was there a teacher involved? Or?
Ms. Schwarzkopf and Mr. Corbett are the two teachers of the classes, and they decided they wanted to do something that helped more of the community rather than just do like an average school project.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
I love it that it's not just the 18-year-olds, that you were thinking ahead, and like you had said, once you get your permit, you're able to at that time sign up.
Most of the kids in the class now are pre-registered now too, which encouraged a lot of us
Yeah,
to
that's
do
great.
it.
And so what kind of information did you get from the previous students that you emailed?
I emailed, so a few weeks ago for the pre-registering, I emailed over 250 of them, and
That's
almost 100 of them came back to me and said that they pre-registered. And actually yesterday I emailed all of them again and told them about the absentee ballots because they all can't like go to their
Local
home
board.
anymore.
Right.
So, and I got a few emails back that said, can you turn these in for me because I'm not home. So we already have a few
That's
people.
great.
We're also having a couple different groups actually are going to be at like the voting polls and stuff. So there's people who are helping out with the polls, and Gabby was going to talk about there's going to be a babysitting group that me and Gabby are in charge of.
And it's for parents that don't want to have like all their kids in line with them because that's like really hard. And they can just like drop their kids off with us while they go and like they use the bathroom or they want to vote, and then they can also like chat for a few minutes if they want to, just so that they don't have to like worry about their kids roaming around everywhere.
That's great.
I think the idea behind it was like a lot of parents I feel like not use the excuse but just like aren't able to actually like leave the house because if you have like a toddler running around, I know my mom was never able to usually go out and vote when we were younger because she has 3 kids and we were all close in age, so we were all running around. So we just wanted to like make sure that there was like that they had like an accessible outlet so that they were actually able to vote because every single vote counts. So we wanted to make sure that they were able to do it too.
It sure does, and that is great, because, you know, those questions that are on the ballot, it takes a while to like read them, and when you're trying to, you know, take care of your children, you know, it's definitely better that your children are, you know, well taken care of. So where will you be doing that? Is there a room set up?
We haven't really finalized it yet, but there will be somewhere definitely close, and it will only take a little bit. And me and Gabby are going to be there from 7 to 8.
And
The whole
7
time.
a.m. to 8 p.m.?
Yes. And then we're going to have different high school volunteers coming in. So like it'll be us the whole time, and then we'll have other people who have opportunities to come and volunteer with that
So
too.
you're gonna give up your whole day off?
Is that an excuse?
That's wonderful.
Are you gonna? No, it's a
We have day off.
we have the day off.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You're gonna
But
get.
that's
community
really
service
very
hours
nice.
for that?
Yeah.
We were discussing it. We have
Or
to
is it
meet
part
with
of
the
a
guidance
the
council.
project, or I don't know?
We each person in the group has to do like more. Pretty much, she tries to get everyone to do more than's required.
Yes.
Because you get an assigned group, of course. So then you have to like help with other groups and stuff. And so as our extra credit, me and Gabby plan the whole project, and we're gonna go. And I think we're gonna get community service hours for the actual doing.
You should.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, the girls were very professional. So they sent Mrs. Marr a message and me a message. And, you know, we had a great email exchange, and they followed up with Mrs. Marr and met with her and, you know, had some great ideas. And, you know, so I think, you know, Margaret and I both felt that they really handled it very professionally and very maturely. And I just want to say that to you guys because, you know, delivery is really important if you want people to work with you. But they, you know, at one point we were like, well, we're not sure where it can be. And like, they didn't give up on it. They were like, well, you know, is there a chance we could use this? So, you know, I think we really wanted to support their efforts. So I know that the final decision is of where it was going to be is because there's professional development that day.
Oh, correct.
So it would kind of be nice to be just in the CAF, but, you know, it's gonna have to be something else. But I think there are some ideas that are still on the table.
Yeah, we've been
Yeah.
emailing
So
back and forth with
it'll
Ms.
work.
Marr.
Yeah, it'll work out great.
That's great. I commend all of you for doing that. So Alexis, what do you do? What part of the group are you in?
I'm helping with Gabby in the like the registry for voting.
Okay, that's good. That's good. I can't believe you emailed so many people. And I'm glad that they got back to you. I mean, that's great.
Almost half. I mean,
Yeah.
that's quite a bit.
Right.
And you guys design T-shirts or something too, right? I mean,
Yeah, each student gets a T-shirt. We actually got a grant from Miss Schwarzkopf was able to do get a grant that allowed us to each student gets T-shirts. So actually on the voting day, well, with every event we do, we have to wear the T-shirts, and it kind of just lets people what we're doing and what to like make sure we're incorporated with the group. And then at the actual polls, each student's going to be wearing a T-shirt, just so you'll know if like you need help or anything. You can always go to that.
And is that all the juniors that got T-shirts?
Yes, there are a couple seniors, I think, and there's one AP class that I don't think's participating in it. But there's 90 students total.
Oh, that's great.
And one of the students they all had a design contest, right? And then they voted on the design.
Maddie
Oh, really?
McClung
Yeah.
was the design that was
Yeah,
picked.
yeah, I saw the T-shirts. They're great. And then I read the article in the student newspaper,
Yeah,
which was really
that
nice.
was very nice, yes. The paper,
You were in the paper.
The,
The actual, the record.
the
Yeah,
record.
I mean,
Yeah.
the Georgetown.
Miss Van Galen.
No,
for
but
that.
Yeah,
this
she did a
whole
nice
newspaper.
job.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
yeah, it was
And
very
so
cool.
it is so important to vote,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and I think, once you all have the opportunity to do it, I know every time I go in and vote, I just feel like so good afterwards, because your vote does count. I know that people, you know, oh, I'll do it next year or whatever, you know, it's such a privilege to be able to do that, especially in history. I'm sure you learn about all these other countries that don't have the same advantage that
Yeah.
we do. So we really have to take advantage of it, and we do have to educate everybody, not just kids. I strongly believe that adults, some adults out there really need to be educated that it's such an important thing to do.
I think that pretty much you could go and ask anybody who's participating in the project, and they would say they didn't realize how much like each vote counts. And like I personally didn't even know what an absentee ballot was before the project.
Yeah?
And so I think that it's like really broadened our view on like how important it is to actually take part in the government, rather than just like sit and think that like, oh, other people are gonna do it, so I don't have to.
Right, right.
Just assume that everything was gonna go well, you know, without your voice.
Right.
But really, you know, I mean, if you don't vote, you don't have a right to complain about anything. If you find yourself wanting to complain about something, like a lot of people do, well then you darn well better get yourself over to a booth and start voting.
Right,
So,
right.
Well, you know, it'll be really interesting to see what the voter turnout is
yeah.
this year,
Yeah.
you know, based on all the,
I was
they're
just,
doing.
Right.
when, you know, when I went into the schools and I spoke to several different classes, I was just so impressed with all of the students, and you were all so, you know, interested and learning and wanting to hear more about it, and, you know, from what Ms. Schwarzkopf told me, they were given, you know, choices about projects that they, relating to this whole initiative, and they signed up for them all in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
There was a sign-up
Well,
genius.
I was
mean, they
there
just,
the
like,
day that she told them about it.
It was kind of like
And they were like,
high level of
when are you gonna
enthusiasm
post
there.
it? When are you gonna post it? And, you know, like, really, within 10 minutes, everything was gone.
Everybody was
But she
excited.
did say that if there was a project that they really felt like they really wanted to do, she would,
Yeah,
of course,
and other
allow
students
that.
actually, the babysitting project wasn't a idea that she, like a thing that she offered. Me and Gabby came up with the idea on our own. So like a couple of students I know came up with other ideas just to like, so the students have gotten like really involved. It's actually really
Yes, it's
impressive.
been great.
With like how much they want people to vote. It's
Right.
kind of cool.
Yes.
That's great.
Definitely,
And when
yes.
you're all there with your T-shirts on,
Yeah.
the public will be very impressed.
And the absentee ballots are really important too, you know, it's interesting for me to hear that you didn't really know much about absentee ballots before, as I'm sure a lot of other young people don't know a lot about them. But, you know, as I mentioned to the classes, I mean, I figure at any given time, since each class basically at our high school is about 100 students, we should have between the ages of 18 and 22, about 400 students, people out there.
Right.
And, you know, if you give maybe 100 of them are living either close enough or maybe still in Georgetown, or they're able to vote here. But I'm thinking we should have about 300 people between the ages of 18 to 22 out there who could be voting, you know, absentee ballots.
Right.
And at the last, so a year ago, I went to town hall because they post after an election, the number of ballots,
Right.
and, yeah, you know.
And how
there-
many absentee ballots do
well,
we
a
have?
couple of years ago, I went and there was 11. At this last election, which was the primary, there were 42.
Mhm.
So we made, you know,
A little
an
progress.
improvement, a little
Yeah.
progress.
Yeah, but that
42,
seems like a
still, I
very
think
low
we
number.
Really, you know, if students knew more about the absentee ballot process, you know, I think
Yeah.
it's a matter of education, teaching. You know, we'd get more absentee ballots.
I know that when you came in, we were all kind of looking at each other because
Yeah.
none of us knew about it. I think there
Yeah.
were like maybe 2 people in our class of like 20 that knew about the process. We were all like, oh my gosh, I have no idea what that was.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was great that you went in.
Yeah. Oh, I enjoyed it. I love going in and talking to the students and
Yeah,
seeing
that's
that.
great.
And, yeah.
Yeah, you guys, I'm very proud of you guys.
Thank you.
And I'm proud of you, the fact that you wanted to come out tonight to talk to us about it and be on TV.
TV.
Georgetown
TV. But people actually watch this.
From what I hear. They do. They do, yeah. But I commend you, and I commend also, Mrs. Schwarzkopf and Mr.
Yes.
Corbett, too, for bringing this to the forefront, because it is so important. I know my daughter, she's gonna vote this year for the first time, and she's already like telling me, you know what question one means? And, you know, so I'm like, oh, it's nice to sit down with her and get her perspective on things, and, you
First
know,
time
she has
is
her own
important.
voice now, unlike when I was growing up, it was like, my parents were like, this is who you're gonna vote for, you know, and I'm like, okay, but now kids are so, you know, they
They're more
just
educated on the issues that are coming
and they
out.
have their own thoughts, and they wanna share it, and,
It's
I think
their
that's
vote.
great.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
their vote.
it's
They
great.
can vote however they'd like.
I almost
and,
forgot. There's another group too. It's a nonpartisan drive, so you like aren't supposed to sway, and we've been very careful about it, and we make sure we don't sway anybody to who they're gonna vote. But a couple of groups have actually like written out like whole descriptions and like talked about what like it kind of is like a guide. It shows like maybe who you would like to vote for based off of their views, because it shows like what they want to do when they're in office and like certain people, and so it kind of is like a guide to help them like know who they want to vote, because a lot of people I know step into the booths and are like, I don't know what to do now.
Right, right.
So,
But you do that for both sides, they're doing
yeah,
it for both sides.
they
So
do it for everything,
so
and
it's-
it's not
yeah.
like a way to sway
like
it.
a
It's
little
just like their words.
Cliff notes.
Yeah.
For,
So
who's
that
running.
group is looking at all the candidates and then writing that out?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
wow,
and maybe the
that's
ballot
great.
questions and.
Yeah, they've been doing ballot questions
Yeah,
too.
which is really helpful, 'cause I
great.
think that's a reason that a lot of people maybe don't vote, is they feel they don't know enough about the issues. And, you know, that can be intimidating.
Intimidating,
I
right.
mean, I like to, I like to become informed myself, and I take the time to do that, but I won't say that I know, you know, everything about every issue on the ballot. I mean, we always have more to learn, so it's helpful to have a succinct, like a Cliff Notes, you know, that's some place to go where you can just look like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense to me.
That's great. Very proud of you guys.
you.
And thank you for
Thank you
coming
so
out,
much.
especially with your injury. I'm sorry to hear that.
I hope
you
feel better.
The end of the season.
Yeah, you're lucky that it was the end of
Do
the
you
season.
play a winter sport, though?
I don't.
Okay, good. You get a little time to heal.
That's good. Does anybody else have any more questions? Little young ladies?
It's wonderful, thank you.
I know.
Thank you for having
Matt.
us.
Thank you
Yes,
so
thank
much for
you.
coming.
Enjoy your night. I love when our students come out.
I know.
That's great.
Oh, they're so passionate.
I know, that's fabulous. That's how it should be,
Yeah.
right?
Oh, absolutely.
Taking initiative.
Yeah.
This is what we wanna see.
That's right. Okay, we have Mike Anderson to come and talk to us about a truck lease.
Well, this is a.
Did you get any response back from the CIP members?
Yeah,
Yep. Saying,
no, they were in, the CIP supported it, yeah.
right, well, I'm sure they supported it,
Yeah.
but if they just
They
didn't
have
have
no
the funding for it.
They have no
Yeah.
funding, yeah.
Yeah. So this is a dump truck.
Yep,
So tell me the difference between a pickup and a dump truck.
well, the
It
truck's a
has-
little bit bigger.
So it has like
and
this?
It's able to go like that.
I'm just surprised that it
Yeah.
was only that much money.
I did a lot of shopping around.
Okay, it's brand new?
Yeah, it's brand new.
Okay,
It's on the lot, so it's like a item that's in stock. It's not a special order
Yeah.
or anything like that.
Mhm.
And it's just a standard truck, you know, there's no bells or
fancy.
whistles or
Yeah.
anything fancy, but, it'll help us be able to get our job done
Mm-hmm.
with, as far as landscaping the grounds and snow removal and sanding and salting and all that kind of stuff.
oh, yeah.
Which is really important.
But, yeah,
I mean, we
absolutely.
can't open school without that.
Yeah, I mean, having our own Santa has,
Senior center, right,
yeah,
yeah.
the senior center has helped us tremendously. Pembroke, as you know, the driveway is huge, and, so during a drop-off on an icy morning, we'll sand that several times
Right.
because, the sun melts things and it washes into the driveway and then it refreezes and stuff like that.
And so what will you do with the old one?
We're trading it in, we're actually getting
Oh.
$4,000 for it.
That's like a Fred Flintstone mobile.
Is it?
The whole floor is.
Right.
I remember
rotted
talking
out.
about it
Yeah.
last year.
Yeah.
I'm surprised
How
it
It's
bad it
didn't
unsafe to
go right
drive,
through.
but,
It was unsafe to drive, I
Yeah.
know, we talked about
Yeah.
it.
It wouldn't
Pass
pass inspection.
Yeah.
So,
So somehow you have to get it.
yeah, so we'll probably use a trailer or
but
something. to get it.
$4,000 is really good trade.
Right, no, that is good.
Do you wanna tell do you wanna tell them why our regular truck can't work? for
Yeah,
this
so,
purpose? Cause that's a
obviously-
question
When
we
you
hear.
say regular truck, are you talking the
So a
truck?
regular
trucks,
pickup
we have
truck,
the two
besides like, you know, if you get a delivery of mulch or something, everything has to be hand unloaded.
Mm-hmm.
It's manpower, time consuming and, you know, also could be, you know, hurt on people's backs and everything else. But a couple years ago, we got a sander from Maya, which is the town's insurance company. So you need like something heavy duty to handle that kind of weight to put the sander in. So we've had this dump truck for several years, and we've been using the sander for the last 2 years since we got it from Maya. And so that's one of the main reasons we need a heavy duty truck.
It won't fit in the current
Yeah.
truck.
The sander.
It can't
sander.
handle
They
the
can't
weight.
handle it,
yeah.
sure.
And also, I mean, like when this summer, a lot of things we got delivered, we paid for, rocks, mulch,
Right, and that's a lot
sand,
of money
all
that
that
now we
stuff.
don't have to do,
Yeah,
since we can do it all
because-
ourselves.
And the water department and the highway department did let us use their dump trucks on off days, but they're also in the middle of projects in the summer, so it's hard for them to
give
give
it
up their
up.
truck all the time, so. And they were both great to us and let us use their trucks when they could, but, it has been a burden on us.
Yeah, I'm sure. So then so it's a 3-year lease.
Yep.
Yeah.
We normally have a lease line in our budget, in our operating budget for
Yeah.
maintenance. So this year's lease payment is the only payment that we wouldn't have budgeted, so we came up with the idea of taking it out of our facilities use account. We've really been pushing field rentals and that type of stuff, so the account has some money in it this year, so we're able to do that, as well as, normally I use that money for lawnmowers and outdoor equipment, but because of the building project, we're in really good shape with outdoor equipment. So there's not a need this year to use that money for that stuff.
Okay, that's good. Okay, where's where I saw the actual monthly,
think
I mean yearly?
Note.
I know, I thought, it wasn't this one,
I
right?
don't
Did I
see it
lose,
on
maybe I didn't do it.
The memo on.
Yeah.
Up
there it
here.
is. Here it is,
With
okay.
annual payments. 13,89926.
Okay, so the total cost of the truck is $39,783.70.
Yep.
And the 3-year lease, so you'll be paying, or we'll be paying $13,899.26?
Yep.
Okay, does anybody have
And
any?
at the end of that, we'll own it.
We'll own it outright, yeah. So it's not, a lease is kind of a bad word. It's more like
Rental.
we're making three.
It's like a
Three-
three-year.
three-year
annual
year
payments.
payments.
Yeah, three, it's like a loan,
4,000
but
that
they
goes
call it a
towards-
municipal lease.
So that's already deducted
Yeah.
the 4,000.
Yeah, the interest rate is 4.89, I don't know.
Yeah,
if anyone's
that's
interested in
good. So when are you gonna get it?
that. As soon as we,
Like it's
That
ready
is all the
it's ready to
paperwork.
go.
Tomorrow?
Sign the papers.
What color is it?
We'll get the lease paperwork after the approval.
Yep. Okay. You didn't go with blue like on that, because.
well,
that
this
was
is on the
mine.
lot, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So it's white, right?
yeah, it's white.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and this is off the state bid list, so we, like, have met all the criterias, we've contacted the right number of dealerships to make sure that we're following the state bid list
Right,
properly and everything, so
shopping around
doesn't
and
have to go
stuff.
out to bid, we just have to, if you guys approve it, we write a purchase order, and then we'll get the lease agreement and that stuff.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions about it before I make a motion? No? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve a 3-year lease agreement to purchase a dump truck for the school department as presented by Mike Anderson.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Thank you very
Great.
much.
thank you.
Yep,
Thank you for
Good luck.
Thanks, Mike.
thank you.
work and research.
Mike has a lot of good connections.
Yeah, connections.
He has a lot of good connections. Maybe we'll just do MCAS.
Good. Yep, we're gonna have MCAS now, so we can have Colin and Principal Richards.
Yeah, we'll all help. We'll all help.
I'd just like to say this presentation is really well put together.
Alan does a great job.
Succinct, clear, easy to understand.
Oh, sorry. We got the wrong one here.
I feel like Michael now. Right.
We talked about this at administrative team on Tuesday. It's really weird.
What?
Weird. I'll have to follow up with Julia. She may be coming.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Colin, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Good. So, this is our to be continued from our last school committee meeting. So we talked kind of about the broad strokes last meeting, and I wanted to get a little deeper into what we've been looking at and what department chairs and grade level teams and teachers have been looking at in regards to our new MCAS test and the results that we got back a couple months ago. So here's what we'll talk about, just a couple reminders, some trends. I want to talk specifically about what's new on the MCAS and how we fared on those new types of questions, our growth, talk specifically about the subgroup that we've been focusing on, and then what we're doing moving forward. So just as a few reminders, I mentioned some of this 2 weeks ago, but it bears repeating just so we can all have the proper context. Our 3rd through 8th graders participated in what's called the Next Gen MCAS. That is a combination of what they call legacy MCAS questions, which are MCAS questions that we all know and love, new MCAS questions that were developed by teachers, and PARC questions, which is a national test by Pearson that a lot of states and districts are using that are aligned to the Common Core standards and the Massachusetts frameworks. So they kind of rolled all those into one and called it the Next Gen. Other differences is they include a few new types of questions. So you have your standard multiple choice questions, but you now have questions that are called multiple select, where there could be more than one right answer that a student needs to select. And you only get credit if you choose all of the correct answers. Constructed responses, which could be a short, in a math question, explain how you got your answer, or in ELA in the lower grades, about a paragraph response to a prompt. And then essay questions, which are a little bit different than the old open response from MCAS in the sense that those essay questions are now always linked to a text that students have to read and analyze and cite in their response. Even if it's a narrative essay question that they have to write a story, they have to write a story using a text that they have, and they have to, let's say, write from another character's perspective or write what happens next, but still use the details from the story that they read in their own narrative
So it
writing.
makes it very challenging for kids who aren't reading at grade level.
Right.
Right.
So, last reminder, our 4th through 8th graders completed the computer-based test. It's on iPad. We did it on iPads. Our 3rd graders last year did the paper-based, but they still had the new types of questions on the paper-based test. Another reminder is that this was the first year of state-determined goals for schools, because 2017 was kind of our baseline. So we had some goals for the first time last year. And they'll be used to determine future goals that we still haven't seen or heard of yet. But the important point to make here is that those goals that are set and the baseline data that we have is obviously the starting point, because it's a new test. And the state, when they are determining goals, need to have schools and districts start in a place where they have room to grow and room to move. So
Imagine if they laid this out and everyone did just perfect.
right. So
Right, it was like the first MCAS that
Yeah,
we put
exactly.
together.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody really struggled the first few years, and then 80% of
Yeah.
kids were proficient or advanced.
Right, so I do get it. I mean,
Yep.
of course, we're all like resisting the change, but I get it.
Yep. And
Is-
and everyone's kind of feeling the same thing that we're feeling, this year, because it's the first year that we have all these growth numbers. And
Kind of all
you
by
know,
design.
we were not the anomaly that we used to be at 80 to 90% proficient, and now we're at 50. And everybody's feeling that shift right now, because we all need to have
Right.
those growth targets.
At the last meeting, I did get concerned, so I went on that website
Did
and,
you figure it out?
yeah, so
Yeah.
I felt better.
Yeah.
I mean, I took your word for it, but just to peruse
Oh,
the
yeah.
other communities
Yep.
that.
And then just a last reminder that everyone around the Commonwealth, it's a period of adjustment. And we talked in our admin meeting about, the length of passages are a little longer, or in some cases, students have to flip between reading 2 passages because they need to compare and contrast them and the different types of questions that they're being asked. And we noticed some trends in stamina, where students started to miss more questions the later in the test that they got. So we have to build that stamina. So, and also the technology is still a relatively new tool for everyone. So
It's not timed,
it is not
Not
timed.
timed.
not,
It's
so
an
you have,
untimed test.
you can go as long as
Yep.
you want. But yeah,
Within-
of course,
within a
if you're
school
getting
day.
tired.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say,
Within
within
a
one
school
school,
day,
yeah,
yeah. If you start a session during the school day, you have to finish it by the time the buses arrive.
Okay.
That was a
So-
big discussion at the state level.
And that's why it's always in the morning.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
Yeah.
so when they did Park, that was time.
Yeah, that
that's
was
what I'm saying,
times.
that's where the debate
Yeah,
was.
and when I was in Chicago, it was the very early stages of Park, and it was timed, and there were 3 sessions per subject area instead of 2, and it was not fun.
The new commissioner
this
is
is
talking
fun.
about lessening the amount of time that kids are taking on standardized
Yeah.
tests. So that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out.
Right, because that's the big thing. Everyone wants that
How much
time to
time.
be, yeah. so
Exactly, yeah.
It's better, time on learning, the teacher, in front of you rather than
Yeah.
the standardized.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we'll just kind of hit on a few of the general trends that we've been talking about, and I have interspersed with all these slides just an example from a grade level, but if the committee would like to see any more grade levels or are curious about any of the things that I'll bring up today, just let me know and I'm happy to share some more information with you all. But in ELA, and for the most part, these trends are towards the 3rd through 8th grade span, just because the high school test is the high school test that it's always been, and that tracked pretty much as it has in the past, and the test hasn't changed. So for our English language arts courses in all of our grade levels, when you look at the all students category, students were at or above the state average for nearly all of the domains and standards, and that's language, reading, and writing. And to be a little more specific, the language and writing standards were more consistently above the state. That's conventions, vocabulary, text types. But the other trend that we saw, that the reading standards were not as consistently high, or at times fell below the state average. Those standards there are craft and structure, integration of knowledge and ideas, and key ideas and details. And that last bullet that I have is a little bit of a hypothesis, but I'm pretty confident in it, that we have longer passages that I mentioned that are at times more complex, with new types of questions that are asking students to go beyond to, just answering a multiple choice question of, what was the main idea.
Prove it from the
Yeah,
text.
you have to, explain your writing or prove it, or use your answer in question A to answer, questions B, C, and D. So those reading standards are, now when we're talking below the state average, as you can see in this slide here, it was 1 point below in craft and structure in 3rd grade. So it's not like we're
A
talking
very
we're-
small
yeah.
amount.
But it was a consistent trend that we saw when we would see some of these, red numbers here. They would generally in ELA be in the reading category. So obviously something that we're working on at the elementary and middle school, to making sure that we're asking those high-level questions, getting students to really synthesize, analyze, compare, contrast, and do all of that higher level work so that they can really get those reading standards. Some general trends for math. Very similarly, when you look at the all students category, most standards and domains were above the state average, at or above the state average on all grade levels. But in terms of finding a trend where we may have fallen a little bit below, it was much more of a mixed bag from grade to grade. There wasn't a specific geometry standard where we were really low, 3rd grade to 4th grade to 5th grade. It was kind of a little bit more of a mixed bag.
Right. So not like the ELA, which was the
Which
reading.
was reading, yeah. It was tough to find that one common thread for where we might have had a little hiccups. Now, the caveat there, as there always is in some of the instances where we were below the state average, there was a very small sample size for that particular standard. The math standards there are many more math standards than there are ELA. So in some cases, there was a sample size of one multiple choice question that made us fall below the state average. So
Yeah.
take it for what it's worth. There may have been just one question that, that our students missed, or what came up in a lot
That
of,
can be so misleading.
It is, yeah.
which is why it's
is
even
why
more
the-
important than like the
Year after
grade
year
level
it's
teams
more
and
important.
department chairs have been going much further in depth into not just the standards reports, but the question type reports and the individual student reports, so they can really get to the bottom of, what a student is missing and maybe why they're missing that question. Go ahead.
Let me ask you, Colin, like, when you get these, so how many people are actually going through that, like, and whittling down to an actual student's performance?
So I got the preliminary reports around mid-August, and I created a big Google Drive folder and shared them first just with our admin team. From there, those got shared with the department chairs and coaches at the different schools, and then those department chairs and coaches took those to their department members, and they had some department time to really do that student item analysis. And at Pembroke, we used some of our last professional development day for grade levels to dive into all of those reports. So it kind of starts at the top and kind of trickles its way down, and whenever a teacher would like to see a report in a different way or like a specific report, I can generate that for them and
So
say,
it is down to the student level, so
Yeah,
they can
that's-
actually look at their kids.
Right, and actually go one by and
And we
see
have
what
map
may.
testing as well tied to the
Right.
standard,
Right.
so they can take a look at that as well.
Yep.
And so a lot of times, does the map, when you look at that and compare, are you, like if they didn't do well on a certain part and then you look at the map and then,
I don't
I
look
wonder
at
if
the
you
map
see the
data.
correlation.
you can, but I'm not sure if map data has been that use in that regard to link to the
We
MCAS.
do, but, we have not done the exact crosswalk per student.
Yeah.
And to be honest, just because that would be incredibly time consuming to look at every child.
Yeah.
I will say that MAP, it touts itself that it is a crosswalk to MCAS. So, and we do use the MAP data, but we don't do it so we use it to determine interventions, and groups, and where a child might need some help, but not in relation to, oh, here they were on MCAS and here they are on MAP.
Right.
And plus,
That's- yeah,
again,
that's
we're
what
But
looking
you
at
see some connection.
two
if you really
kind
looked.
of different groups of kids.
Mhm.
So in fourth grade, it was the fourth grade MCAS, but now they're in fifth grade.
Fifth grade.
Right,
yeah.
right, right.
So, you know, and we're looking at that, the map is this year.
And
Thank
that's why as you have more years of data,
Mm.
you can, one question isn't the only judgment you're making, right? Like for years, we saw poetry was, one
Was
of
the
our
problem,
weaker, skills. So, it drives you to look at your curriculum and
Yep.
how we teach poetry. So, I mean, it's difficult to get used to a whole new test, a whole new language, a whole new vocabulary, but if we use these tests as, one lever of improvement, one way to look at data, there's good stuff here. There's good information, right?
Yeah.
I just think we can't jump off the cliff, every time we get these results. We need to stay the course, because I'm sure Colin's gonna point out that some of the things that we noticed that we really had put a big emphasis on last year really did show up in the results. Kids did better in those areas.
Well,
So
that's good.
that's
Yeah.
what we wanna see,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
It takes time sometimes to get these
Right,
standards.
because I know that before, I was always concerned with the writing
Yeah,
aspect of,
Mhm.
because there was a time there where writing didn't seem,
right.
not that it wasn't important, but it took kind of like a back seat to it, and being I love to write, and I am disappointed a lot of times, or was, in some of the writing, things that were coming home. So I'm glad to see that that's,
I have some good news for you in a
Yes.
couple slides, Barbie.
Yes, I know.
So again, this is just an example of sixth grade math results by standards, and you can see what I mean here, kind of a mixed bag of being above state average versus a few points below. But again, where we're below, it's not terribly, and where we're above, it's not, we're not outscoring the state by leaps and bounds. So like I mentioned 2 weeks ago, we're kind of right in the thick of where everyone else seems to find themselves. Certainly we want to be head and shoulders above where everybody else is, but we're not there yet, but we're making strides to get
The
there.
thing I would point out there that I always notice is a lot of the test over the years has been about number sense. And at the end of the day, mathematics is about number sense and really understanding it. And if you notice, the numbers there and number sense are good. And that is something we've really been spending a lot of time in the district on, is number sense.
So for the science test, and remember this is only for grades 5, 8, and 10, we were above the state average for nearly all the domains and standards in science as well. And there were some instances where it really jumped out, where we were well above the state average by 10 points or more, specifically in 5th grade for ecosystems, physical science, energy in 8th grade, and cell biology in 10th grade. So that was really nice to see that we're, even with some changes in the assessment, we're really doing well. And then earth and space science seems to be a spot where there may be some gaps to fill or topics to review prior to MCAS, because of the standards where we were a little bit low, they tended to be in the earth and space science categories. And again, if I had to hypothesize, we do our earth science in 6th grade, and students don't take that science MCAS until 8th grade. So there may be some
So-
discussions to have there.
Right, so is that something that, you know, they
Realign.
already have the curriculum set, but, right, could
Realign.
it be something that they would?
Yeah, so I'm meeting with the middle school science teachers and their department chair in November. We're going to bring some possible vendors in to kind of just see what's out there and what they can offer, because we did the elementary science program a couple years ago, and you know they're looking for what else is out there as well.
And STEM Scopes is an option that's
Yeah.
still
Oh,
in
yeah.
the mix.
Yeah, so here's what I mentioned. This is 8th grade, the 8th grade science. So, you know, right here we're 16 points above the state average in physical science for energy, which is fantastic. And again, just slightly below the state average for that earth science standard and domain there. So,
Helen, I wonder if the technology and engineering, which seems a little higher, has to do with the fact that we've switched a lot of our coursework at the middle high school to.
yeah, oh, I'm sure it is.
You know,
And the
to
creativity
to
courses and the-
creativity,
yep.
engineering, you know.
Yeah.
So
And I
think
know
that's
Mr.
a good
Lucia
sign.
was very proud of those scores specifically in that category because of some of those shifts that he had made.
The design process.
So let's talk about some of the new question types, because this was new for all of our students, so it makes sense. And basically what I did was I just kind of cut off the top part of that report by standard, because selected response here is a fancy way to say multiple choice. But constructed response is like a short answer, and essay is an essay. So you can see here, happy to say that in those new question types, where students really have to explain their work in ELA, where they have to write an essay, where they have to go through that process, we are scoring in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade above state averages for those new types of questions. And you know, Barbie, to your point, in writing, we want our students to be good writers. It's been a goal of ours. We, you know, started the process of making new writing rubrics that are standards aligned, that you know we can use throughout the year. And even in the first year, we're seeing that our students are doing better than the state average when it comes to writing. I'm not going to say they're doing great yet, because if you look at the possible points, not always as high as we want to be in terms of you know the essay, but we're already above where the state is.
Hi.
And that carries over for our 6th, 7th, and 8th grade as well. New question types, specifically the essay. They get rid of the constructed response, I think in 5th grade, and then they have one extra essay question. So in the upper grades, they write 3 essays as opposed to 2 in the lower grades. So when our students are asked to write an essay, they are doing so above the state averages there. There's a new rubric that MCAS has that we have used to adapt our school-based rubrics at Pembroke. So going forward, when we're looking at student work and when we're giving students feedback and comments, we know that they're aligned to, most importantly, the standards, but also going to mimic how students are scored on MCAS. In math, the new question types, again, constructed response is multiple choice. So we want to look at selected response is multiple choice. Constructed response and short answer are where students need to explain their work, or maybe a multi-part question where they get the answer in part A and have to use that answer in part B and C. And for the most part, you can see that we are above state averages for those types of questions in math as well. It's nice not to see any of those red numbers there, save for 3rd grade, which to me makes sense because graders. Yeah, I know. But certainly room for improvement. As with all things, right? Again, I want to say it's nice to be above the state average, but it's not where we want to be long term. We want to really exceed those goals. If you look at the possible points, if you were just to do a quick conversion into a letter grade, that wouldn't look too great. I hesitate to do that because remember, a 75% is meeting the expectations. Yeah. But still, it'd certainly be nice to set an internal goal for us to be above those percentages for the possible points that we see, so we can then start to make our own goals and not just compare ourselves to the state averages. But that's kind of really all we have to go on right now, because there's only 2 years of these results under our belt. Let's take a quick look at growth. So this is for The top bar chart is for the middle school ELA, the bottom is for Pembroke. They don't have this chart for the 10th grade simply because it's a one-off year of testing, so it's hard to track growth from, well, they can't because it's now a new 8th grade test to a 10th grade test. You know, we have you know, over 60% of our students are at least in the moderate growth range, moderate high or very high growth, which is nice. That student growth percentile down at the bottom there, you can see for ELA 51.5, sorry, mean SGP at the bottom there in the middle. 51.5% for the middle school and 47.7% for Pembroke. So again, 50 percentile being average, we're kind of right there for our growth for ELA. And if we look over to math, not as many students are growing as much in math, 43.3, and just about the same for Pembroke, that percentile, so that's a little bit below the average. Something to work on, making sure, especially when we talk next about that high needs subgroup, we want them to be growing more than the average so they can close that gap to make sure that they're catching back up to where they need to. Questions? Keep moving on.
So the high needs subgroup is part of this as
Yeah,
well?
correct. Yeah, so
All students.
yeah, I just kind of put all students just to give us kind of what's the district looking like as a whole. But it is important in the next slide to kind of look at the subgroup that we have traditionally looked at in the past as needing some extra help and support. And we can talk about that right now. So just a quick reminder, right now. So that high need subgroup comprised of three kind of smaller subsets of our student body: students with disabilities, economically disadvantaged students, and our EL students. And the trend here that we saw with our high need subgroup is across our grades and in subject areas, they were below state averages in most of the standards and domains. And that is compared to other high needs students. It's not compared to all students, it's compared to high needs students in the same grade span. And the high needs growth from 17 to 18 was about average to the state's growth. And that's fine, but again, if we think about closing that gap, we need to be above the average.
Increase that
So we need to have our high need students grow more than they need to per year, which is a difficult task, but if we're gonna get them to where they need to be,
That's what we have to
that's
do.
what we have to do.
And
Right.
I think it's a more fair or easier comparison when you look at growth than it is just hitting the target. Because.
That's right.
Because, if you're here and the target's here, it's really hard for you to make that kind of growth. But the fact that, you're showing growth at a higher rate than 50% is
Yep.
kind of what we're looking for.
Right.
So sometimes you'll see, if you look at an individual student, that they're significantly below the bar, but they made 60% growth. You kind of can't ask for more than that from a student, right? So the good thing is, the rubber hits the road when kids are trying to graduate, right? So that's the beauty of having these tests, and we have found that we have kids that everybody graduates with an MCAS diploma that
Yep.
comes from our school. Some of those kids were in warning, needs improvement, in the elementary grades. And then it's, this kind of information and the other things that we're doing allow us, eventually to get kids to where they need to be. So I think we don't want to lose sight of that.
Yeah.
So what would you do though, like say there was, if there was a 10th grader that had, very, small growth, if they were in the needs improvement, small growth. So what would the teacher do, or what would you look at and see for a plan?
Yeah, so that's when that student item analysis really comes in handy, because you can look specifically at that student, go question by question, and in some cases look at the question that was asked to really get a better understanding of where that deficiency may lie, what that student might not be comprehending, or what skills or standards there may be a gap there, and through their content teacher, any intervention group that they may be a part of, or online program like we have MobyMax at the middle high school that that can help practice and
work at your own
reiterate
pace,
those standards.
But that would still, so I guess So that would still be done at the 10th grade level, even though you're saying, okay, 10th grade, now you get your MCAS diploma. I would hope that that would still be something that we would
Oh, yeah.
be
Oh.
delving into, and then,
Oh,
and then
absolutely.
going with the content teacher and the team
Yeah. I mean, specifically, if they're
How it
if they're
works.
in this high needs subgroup, they probably have advocates elsewhere
Other
around
supports.
in the school, whether it be a, a special education teacher or someone that's working, with them, for any type of intervention. If they're in that high need subgroup, more often than not, they'll have extra supports, to make sure that those gaps are being addressed.
Right, and so one of the things, I know Jack and I talked about it yesterday, is, and we're talking about it obviously as a team, is that a lot of kids do get support, but we wanna make sure that the support they're getting is targeted toward the right things. Because sometimes, when I was in the classroom, people would get Title I, right? So if they were like the lowest 6 kids in the class, they'd go to a Title I group. But within that group, there were kids that were sort of all over the place, and yet reading another book, and everybody getting to read a page was really not targeting to what they need. So that's kind of what we're spending a lot more time talking about. So if kids are getting a certain intervention, is it the right intervention? Right, and, how are we reinforcing that in the classroom by giving two tiers of instruction for the kids that need it? So that's part of our action plan, is really looking at the instruction that we're giving and the services and the actual content we're focusing on with kids.
Last thing I'll say about our high needs students is that the sample size is obviously much smaller than the all students subgroup. So if we have a sample size of about 25 high needs students, and just a couple students had a really rough day when that MCAS day came around, it can really affect the overall scores for that subgroup. Again, not it's just the reality of what could happen with a smaller sample size. We're not a district that has hundreds of students in that high needs group, or we have, a couple hundred EL students and a couple hundred, whatever. It's just the smaller sample size, something to keep in mind, and even more reason to go into those student item analysis reports to see what's really going on. Our growth distribution for our high needs students, so you have 4 bar charts there. High needs for the middle school, non-high needs for the middle school, high needs for Pembroke, and non-high needs for Pembroke and high needs for Pembroke. Man, that's confusing because it's backwards. But you can just see the distribution there when you do break those high needs students out of the all students subgroup. We obviously, as we mentioned a few times, want to see those high need students growing more than 50%. We want them all in that high and very high categories, so we know that they are closing that achievement gap. And there's some work to be done in that area. So on that note, we can talk about what we have talked about doing, what we are already doing, and I want to say up front, so I put it in the header there. Here are some things that are already happening. It is including, but certainly not limited to, just these things for schools. This doesn't include anything about enrichment groups or win time or MCAS tutoring that we have planned, or lots of other things that are happening. This is just a quick snapshot. I asked the building principals just to send me a few bullet points of kind of what's already going on in the schools to address some of these things, and with their help and department chairs at the high school, here are a few bullets. I won't read these verbatim to you, but I will just let you know that there's already been a lot happening, a lot of discussions going on about, we recognize where we have areas to grow and what we need to continue to improve on, and there are certain processes in place that we are using to make sure that that happens. A lot of it deals with really looking at how students are asked to perform and show mastery of the standards on the MCAS versus how they're asked to do the same in the classroom or on teacher assessments, and finding ways to marry those two, so that, for instance, if a student is asked something a 3rd grader is asked something a different way on MCAS than they have been used to being asked it in class, they may know that concept and that standard like the back of their hand, but just not understand how it's being asked of them. So making sure that we're really folding in lots of rich vocabulary and understanding that students can contextualize things in different ways, so that even if it's not asked of them exactly how they are used to it, they can still, use their skills to show what they know.
I know we talked about that when we were talking all about Park and how they would rephrase things, so we were concerned that
Yeah.
It was, it was different from what the kids have been used to before.
Yeah, I think
Sometimes
we
it's-
talked
it's a
about
simple-
carrying and regrouping.
Yeah,
Right?
or,
That
you know,
was just one
we ask
example.
students to solve and the MCAS asks them to simplify.
Mm.
Like, okay, it's one word, but it can make the world a difference
Yeah,
for a
sure.
student.
They might be like, what's
Yeah, I mean, it's too bad they don't keep it the same language
Yeah.
because that's the language that, you know, they're taught.
Yep.
So they just,
But sometimes different programs call it different things, you know what I
Right.
mean? So it is something we just need to be sure the vocabulary is consistent. as much as
My
we-
last slide up here is a little different than I think what's in your packet because, we have some science, directives here as well that I included. So, ELA, they're doing lots of great work reaching out to other middle schools to see what they're doing and building those connections. They're partnering with the social studies department to make sure that they're speaking the same language. Math, they're really diving into the item analyses and they're also looking at regional schools. Science department, they've noticed that that earth science underperformance as well and making plans to see what they can do to address those areas of growth and improvement. So I really feel like we have such strong teams here and people that really are willing to undertake this work, go deep into those nitty-gritty reports to get to the bottom of what we can do better and then put plans in action that make sure that happens.
So the earth science is 8th grade.
They get tested on it in 8th grade,
Oh,
but
but
they
it's
started back in
in 6th.
primarily our
fifth or
6th grade
sixth. Okay.
curriculum.
So one of the things that we do need to look at the middle school, and we've been talking about this, is that years ago, the alignment was more around, standard area, right?
Yep.
So, you know,
Sixth grade
sixth
Earth,
grade did
seventh grade
Earth,
Life.
seventh grade did life,
Eighth grade
eighth grade
physics.
did physics. But the problem is, if you're a kid who moves in 7th grade, you sort of miss the whole, unit. So I think it's much better if we do what we're planning to do, which is to, do the continuum all the way through,
Yeah.
to look at the curriculums differently at the
Yeah,
7th,
more of
8th,
an-
9th, so everybody gets some element of physical science, every grade or something. Yeah,
Spiraling.
it's more of a spiraling.
Yeah, it's called an integrated model where you
Yeah.
kind of put,
Yeah.
have units
think
and
that will make
concepts
a
that can take all of those areas of science and
Mm-hmm.
put them, so students get all the standards within the year.
So how friendly was the form that went out to the parents?
From
I thought,
MCAS?
I thought it
Yeah.
was pretty friendly.
Yeah.
Was it?
I didn't get any, did you get a lot of parent,
Well,
That was my next
Oh,
question.
well, well, I'll tell you what we did get, and it was not our fault, it's the state's fault. Because when the state, what is it, it's the, needs improvement.
Where it shows the bar and then the child's score,
Mhm.
if it's anything below 500, it will say, contact your school.
Contact your school to find out what they're gonna do for you.
Of course, children who are you kidding, it's 2 questions, but that's what it says, contact the school.
Yeah,
So-
if you were in the not meeting or partially meeting standards category,
Okay.
it
So that's really
kind of specifically said, reach out to your principal.
And did
which-
you not know that until you got the
No,
first
no,
phone call?
well, no, it was last minute that they kind of shared, Colin and I,
We saw that
listened to a
coming.
few webinars and we're like, ooh, that could be a problem, right? Because, it does, there's all kinds of things in the classroom that are being done to sort of help with that. But that's kind of not what the parents know. It basically said, it makes it sound like there's a problem, where there might really not be a problem,
Yeah, do parents need a little education on this? I mean, obviously they don't need something like this, but to help them understand the new test and the new scoring.
We would be delighted to do,
Yeah.
a webinar or something on it, or
That's why I was actually happy that
podcast, Colin.
the mailer that went home with the scores, it actually did have a nice explainer and kind of breakdown where children fell in terms of not just the scores, but also growth and, I thought it was a nice, but certainly if people would like a little more context, a little more explainer.
People don't seem to come, I don't know why. So it's kind of like, well, what can we do to get the information that people want?
Hard to get really
It's-
psyched
it's-
about
It's
MCAS.
really hyped, yes. Yeah. But, I think doing things here, posting, these presentations, we should post them on our website.
Yeah, of course.
Anybody who has any questions,
And again, the parent form is actually, it is very clear. It does tell the child, it tells the parent exactly where the
it
child
is well done, I
broke
think.
down. It's separated, in little cubes, so it lets you know the percent.
It is user-friendly.
Very user-friendly, so.
I just don't like it
and-
that it
and
says
it's
call
not-
yourself.
I never, I always want parents to reach out if they have concerns.
Yes,
It's just that the state, I think unnecessarily
Yeah, I don't think they,
scares parents that that's a problem.
I don't
So-
think they thought that through all that well,
Right.
but
Especially with
with
half-
everybody,
about half of the student
state,
body
yeah.
across the state falling within
Falling
the
into that
partially
category,
reading or
that's
not reading
right.
categories.
But it was very user-friendly, I thought.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess this, to me, just reminds me of back in the
Yeah.
day when MCAS started, and this is the benchmark starting point. And the same thing happened then,
Yeah,
too. So-
Exactly. But the thing is, that's important to note is, when we started back then, we were nowhere near where the kids are now.
Right.
Like the floor is higher than it was when we
True.
started MCAS
Yes.
years ago, so
That is
that's
true.
all good. You know, that's a good thing.
It's a good thing.
So I hope parents don't seem alarmed, because this really isn't.
I don't know, no one's
Strong
contacted
alarm.
to need me to sound super alarmed, so, you know, anybody who has questions, we do always welcome them to come in, we'll go through it with you. I'm sure that the teachers are, you know, would be happy to do that as well, but we're continuing to look, you know, at what are those trends. I think it makes more sense to look at trends than it does to panic, you know, about, data in isolation, you know, so. Thank you, Colin.
We'll keep on it.
It was great, we'll keep
Yeah,
it.
thank you for this. It was a
Thank
good
you.
follow-up to the last meeting that we had.
And then the next
Thank
time
you.
you'll see sort of references to data will be in the, district and school plans, because they're gonna respond to this as part of their action steps. So, and then, you know, the goals that we're gonna go over, probably next meeting, that we're talking about the superintendent's goals in the areas, the three areas that you were interested in, which was the high need subgroup, math, and what was the third? Oh, social emotional curriculum. That'll tie in as well,
Good,
okay?
okay. I'm gonna turn the floor over to you.
Chloe, I'm so glad you're here. I was fearful that you were sick, because when I came to see you the other day, you weren't in school because you were sick. So I thought, oh my gosh, I wonder if Chloe's sick. But thank you for coming. Thank you for coming. So I want to just talk a little bit about you, because you're really very much, I'm so excited to present you with this year's Superintendent's Award. So I wrote some information for the committee, but I'll read a little bit of it, because people who are watching should know how fantastic you are. And thank you to your mom for coming out and supporting you.
Kathy.
I saw Kathy at I Feel Like game, I guess, and mentioned it to her. So I'm so happy that both of you were able to come tonight. Thank you. So, you know, it was as always, the kids are so amazing, and I did put the stuff in your packet. I asked them when I met with each of them and said, you know, would you be willing to let me share this with the school committee? Because I really want them to have a sense of like the kinds of things that the top 5 kids in the class do. And you can see it's not just academics, it's things within the school and things within the community, and some kids work part-time on top of everything that they manage. So it's really a great privilege for me to actually spend some time with those students in this process. Although it's very hard and disappointing when I have to go back and tell them that they didn't get it. But, you know, they all seem to understand. I mean, people were very happy for Chloe. Chloe's got that kind of reputation around the school. And so I do want to just also recognize Alyssa Gata, Ethan Block, Emma Thompson, and Serena Perkinshaw, because I spent some time with them, and again, as I say every year, I could give, if I had 5 awards, I could happily give every single one of the kids an award for different reasons, for what they've contributed to the school. So I do want to recognize those students as finalists for the award, and a couple of them have already asked me for letters, which is what I offer them, is I write them a letter of recommendation if they want, so a couple have already asked me, so I'm happy about that. So of course, this year's recipient is Chloe Martins. You know, it was really close, because you and, you know, all of the kids are involved in pretty much the same things, Chloe. But one of the things that sort of tipped the scale for me was that you participate in a lot of things, but you also take leadership roles in things. So, you know, the fact that you're president of NHS and president of the student council, you know, selected as a captain, you know, for your field hockey team, you know, those kind of leadership things really did set you, you know, above the others just in this way. So I really want to recognize your leadership. It's really amazing. You know, as I said in the notes, everybody's strong academically and everybody has many contributions they make to their community. But when I looked at your things, you know, a lot of things stood out to me. And I did mention to the committee that, you know, you are the youngest in your family, and your two brothers did a phenomenal job here and have gone on to do great things. So, you know, your family, you know, has done a wonderful job raising you. And I wrote
Cole
you this.
used to sit right in that seat.
Yeah, he did, he did. And I did write your letter, so I'm gonna give these to you. But I did write in your letter, that, you know, you're the total package is what I said. So I said, you know, you're not only really strong academically, but you are one of the most involved students in the school. I would have to say that's true. If there's something going on at the high school, you're not far from it. You're either in it or you're leading it. So it's important to, you know, give you credit for that. You know, as I said it just a minute ago, you've been selected for several leadership roles. You know, your coaches, your teachers, your peers speak very highly of you, and they do all respect you for your leadership. One of the things that that I also think that people should know is that not only you know, having those leadership roles, you also have helped with the organizing of the Catwalk for Cancer, which, you know, is a wonderful event every year. And I know it's a lot of work, but it's a great cause, and I know it's near and dear to you. One of the things that I think is, you know, really special about you, Chloe, is that you don't do things just to put them on your resume. You do them because you care about them. You're completely invested in, you know, what the purpose is. You know, I think you always, you know, just you're joining the, being a peer tutor and a peer mentor, and joining the acceptance committee when we had the swastika issues and we decided we wanted to really tackle, you know, the issue. You know, right away you're on the committee, right? And no one knew what that committee was going to do, but it didn't deter you. You were like, well, I'm gonna get on it. And then I think that another thing that's special about Chloe is that, you know, she also is a member of a regional, tell me again what it's called.
It's NERSAC.
NERSAC.
So it's like the northeast region of like SAC, which is kind of like a statewide student council. So there's a northeast region, and Haley Zadina and I are part of that committee.
And so what does that entail?
We just talk about like local problems in the northeast area of Massachusetts, and then there's like delegates who send it back to like the statewide, and like they have other meetings for that.
And so how do you get together with them?
It's like every other month. It's a meeting in, is it Beverly, I think?
But you apply for it and you're selected, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. And so then there's like a bunch of different people from the northeast region of Massachusetts and students, and we just talk about local problems. And
So I never heard of that before. Is you the first, is this the first grade that's done that, or?
no,
with
they've been doing
previous-
it for a while. Cole actually was a part of it.
Geez, that's interesting.
That is
I never-
interesting,
Yeah, I didn't
yes.
know that.
Yeah. So, you
And
know,
it's something you enjoy, because
Yeah.
you then get to hear what other communities are facing too with their,
Yeah.
yeah, to me would be really interesting as a student.
mhm.
Oh, that's-
I think the
that's
student
interesting.
council does a lot of really good things for the school. You know, I think they give back, and you know, again, Chloe's, you know, the president of that, was the secretary before, right? Or
Yeah.
yes,
Sophomore year.
yeah, sophomore year. So I, you know, Key Club, chorus, a cappella group, you know, sports. You know, when I talk about the total package, I really feel like that fits Chloe. And I think one of the things that is also a standout for you, Chloe, is that you're always willing to help when somebody needs something. So she's come and been a rep here for 2 years, but you know, when we were getting ready to do the high school principal, right? I said, gee, Chloe, I'm trying to figure out a way to get some kids involved in this process. Next thing you know, I got a group of kids and Chloe's on the committee. So, you know, I think that was really important. And then if there needed to be a tour guide or somebody, you know, she was right there for that. And I think that really speaks a lot to, you know, Chloe's willingness. And then same thing with NEASC. You know, when NEASC came, you know, right there to, you know, to take on whatever role we needed to do. So, and then in her free time, she also, she plays the piano, which
That's
she
new?
was telling me that
I've
she
done it for 2 years. with
she
Mrs.
learned it in
LaFleur.
10th grade.
Good for you.
Yeah,
And
fun.
Mrs. Laflamme was
Uh-huh.
very involved in that. That is one of the things that, you know, maybe is on a bucket list for me someday is to play an instrument, because when I was your age, you know, if you were an athlete, you weren't a music person, right? And
Right.
I always feel like, gee, I wished I'd learned to play an instrument, because it's a real
Well, that's what I think
language
the
unto
great
itself.
part, the great thing about Georgetown is
Mhm.
that, you can, you don't have to choose one of the, over the other, you know, you can,
Right.
you could, you know, be an athlete and a musician, you know,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, so I think that's really great. And then she volunteers to tutor people. She also helps the young field hockey players kind of get excited about the sport and build their skills. And then she also works part-time at two jobs, you know, Winfrey's Chocolates and a used sports shop in town.
Oh yeah, just Winfrey's right now.
Oh, just Winfrey's right now. So when I spoke to Chloe's mom about it, you know, and she introduced me to her boyfriend and said, yeah, she's a real fan of Chloe's, right? And I said, yeah, that's just exactly how I want to describe. I am a fan of Chloe's. So that's definitely the case. So I did to have it as a pleasure to talk to Chloe, and she's applying to a lot of great colleges. And I put them in here for you. Some early action, you know, Boston College and I think Northeastern University of Vermont and UMass Amherst, where her two brothers went. Her brother Cole is second year of medical school now in Worcester, and Cooper's doing really well too. So, you know, UMass is a school that, you know, Chloe's definitely considering. And then obviously after the early action, she's got, you know, other schools here, you know, Amherst College, George Washington, a number. So, and I'm confident that she's gonna have a lot of success. She does plan to major in political science, you know, not sure if that'll be law or government or what
Something like
aspect of it, but it's consistent with, you know, the values that she's used here, you know, civic responsibility, you know, taking care of your responsibilities and caring about others, and, you know, I think that's gonna be, you know, whatever Chloe decides to do, she's gonna do a great job. So, it does give me great pleasure to give Chloe Martin the Superintendent's Award this year, so I have a little certificate here for you, Chloe. If you come on up, Pam usually takes a picture of us, so we'll give you a hand, because you're doing a great job, thank you so much. Whatever you do, you're gonna be a star, I know that. So here's your little certificate, all right, so Pam will take a little picture of us, so I can write about you on my blog.
Okay, all right. 1, 2, 3.
You should kneel, Chloe.
Thank you, Pam. So
Gail, you're so
oh, and here's your, this wonderful letter, I gave you 5 copies and I sent you an electronic copy. Okay? All right, congratulations, Chloe.
I have the pleasure of knowing Chloe for a long time. I mean, we can go back to like, tennis, when you were playing tennis years ago, right? Like Emma and,
No, I never played tennis.
well, then maybe you were with Emma on a play date.
Probably,
maybe.
yeah.
That's
Yeah,
what-
probably.
And that was like
Pals.
kindergarten.
Mm-hmm.
A long time ago.
I know, it was a long time ago, but I was so impressed. I'm impressed with all of the transcripts that you
Yeah.
gave me.
Yeah.
But really, it's so impressive to see these grades, and
She's second in the class, I should say
yeah.
that.
so I'm so proud of you too. I know that your mom, and I'm sure your brothers are thrilled for you. And I know that you're gonna do great things. These colleges that you're applying to are phenomenal. I know that Cole, I had talked to him after his like first year at UMass, and he was so happy there. He just really found a great, you know, he just seemed to be so part of the community, and I think that if you chose to go there, which is the superintendent's alma mater too.
Yep, it is.
I think you'll do fine wherever you go, and you're gonna be welcomed into that environment. But really, I'm so proud of you, and I think that Georgetown is just, it's so impressive when I see what the kids do, you know, and the fact that you are an, you know, well-rounded student. It's not just academics. You don't just focus on that. I've seen you as a leader, you know, out there with the Catwalk for Cancer last year. That was phenomenal, and I asked if you were gonna do it again. I would love to see that, because it's really a fun night. And just on the when you're
But it
playing
looks
field hockey
beautiful.
and things like that. It's just, I'm really proud of you.
Yeah.
You're gonna do great. Kathy, I'm proud of you too.
Yeah.
Did a great job.
She did, she did.
And Cooper is doing well?
Yep.
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 Good. He's a senior this year.
Senior, that's
Wow.
amazing.
Good for
Yeah,
him.
we're gonna graduate. soon.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
That's
right.
right.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Wow, and then your mother can really celebrate. That's good. Are you gonna stay for the rest of the meeting? You don't-
You
don't have
We're
You
almost
don't have
done,
to,
I
yeah.
think, yeah.
Yeah. We had the
I have to
11th.
go to play auditions actually.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Go ahead. Oh, I should have added the
Government
play
thing, We
too.
had the 11th graders, they were talking about the voting.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
going on, and that was
Yeah,
very
I'm
impressive.
pre-registered.
Yeah. That's great.
They every lunch and they made me do it and I did it.
Yeah, they did a great job. I was proud of them too. So, well, good luck at your
Thank you,
auditions.
Chloe.
Thank
Yeah, good
you.
Are you all done with field hockey, or is there more games?
One more game tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, we had a game today that got pushed up later, so that's why I was late.
Oh, I did see you, a couple of the kids in the, I wish I
Yeah, we
had
went
known
right
that.
after
Yeah,
girls'
so it was
soccer.
later. Ooh, so it must have been
Oh,
cold.
that's why,
Yep.
okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
How'd you guys do?
Not too good,
No.
but
Game against Amesbury was awesome though.
yeah,
That was a
did good
great
against
game.
them.
That was a
Well,
great
good
game
luck
to watch.
tomorrow. Was it home or
It's away. I think it's at Haverhill.
Haverhill?
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Good
Thank
luck.
you.
do well.
Yeah, thank you, Chloe, good luck.
thank you.
Congratulations
Kathy.
again, thank you,
Thanks
Kathy.
for coming out.
So they're doing
Very nice.
Susical, right, this year?
Yes.
Susical, yeah, fun.
Yeah, Susical, that's good. Okay, so we do have to do a little student activity transfer for Camp Kiev like we do every year.
Right, yep.
So it's going from $10,000 up to 30 just for that period of time until it all
Yes.
gets paid out.
Right.
Okay.
That time again.
Does anyone have any questions about that? Okay, so I'll make a motion to approve the student activity transfer request from $10,000 to $30,000 as presented by Suzanne. So moved. Second. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Great, there you go. Any subcommittee reports? I know we're
Oh, we have a
trying
bunch
to
of, we
get
have a
a
bunch of meetings
coming out.
scheduled.
Did
Well,
we
you know,
ever-
it was funny, I said to Nancy, I said, I wonder if the subcommittees are waiting for me to set up meetings, or whether or not, you know, they're
Well, the
just.
doodle's a perfect way to do it,
Yeah, so, because there wasn't any meeting scheduled.
But nobody was even out.
That's right.
When I finally said, are we gonna do a
So that's why I'm like,
governance? Yeah.
oh, well, maybe I'll just send something out and say, well,
Well, I mean, you know, we meet for a purpose,
We
for a
do,
need.
right, I
So,
mean,
I mean,
right,
if you don't
so
have an
right,
immediate
so there wasn't
need,
this,
if you're, you know,
budget
up-
and finance has
then-
met
Yeah, budget and
a couple
finance
of
has met,
times,
yeah.
because obviously we have some things that we're working on, and we have a goal setting meeting, cause that we can go over the goals, and then you guys can see it, and then we'll bring them here, and then the administrators and I will populate them like we've done every year.
Do we have an exact date for that one?
I thought Suzanne, I think we were waiting for Suzanne to respond, but I think you did. Did you say like November 9th or something?
For which one?
The goals?
I said
Oh,
November
public
6th.
relation.
Oh,
We got the public relations, we have
Okay,
that.
That's
so
the 9th.
that's the
Right.
13th.
That's the 13th,
We're
that's
the
right.
13th,
3
and I
o'clock.
believe it was I have it right here. Sorry, I just went in, and so here's the doodle, and I said for November 6th. I
Am
also
I in
keep
there?
doing that.
Very
That was my vote.
It doesn't show, it doesn't show like what everybody,
executive session,
what everybody does.
Subscribe to updates. Let me see what the.
litigation.
Hold on.
Well, we can check that.
Yeah, we can check it.
But you guys, I have no connection to internet, so I can't get on.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
well,
we'll get
figure
that
out.
scheduled. I mean, I think we have it scheduled, just don't have the date at our fingertips.
okay.
And then governance, we haven't come up with a date yet,
Right.
So who,
working on that.
I responded to governance.
I know,
Pam hasn't responded yet.
I have,
but who, am I governance?
I saw the
No,
three,
it's Pam, and I think you're the alternate.
Okay, okay,
Oh,
good,
that's
because I
just
couldn't do
because I
those days.
didn't know that there was something to respond to, but I will check.
There's a new one.
There's a new one.
The days didn't
Okay.
work. You had opposite schedules,
Okay, so this is,
so now there's a new one.
I will look for that.
So one thing I wanted to ask is what's going on with the rec center?
Oh, well, the good news is the basketball courts are moving forward. I do have to go to well, actually, Mike's gonna go with the guy who did the report for us. It's on the same night as the school committee in November, but it's gonna be downstairs, so we can see how that goes. I think that's gonna be a formality, at least I'm hoping it is. So we can move forward with that. This year, we won't put the final blacktop down and we won't line it.
Oh, so you're talking about over Pearlie in the back?
In the back. And then upstairs, we just met, well, I should say we, Erin and I just met with Tina and Andy Egmont and in Newburyport, because one of the things we agreed to do with that group was to get a budget, to see what a budget would look like. And so in terms of like a staff person, if we wanted to, have it open during the week, she said it would probably be, like $40,000 a year, but, obviously we wouldn't do that this year. Our goal would be, if we could open it this year, open it 3 days a week, do some programming 3 days a week, but we do have to figure out like where we could get some money. In the first year, perhaps we could get these organizations that are all part of it to put in some money at least. I also did meet with the guy who does the Park and Rec, the guy who does the programming for Park and Rec, Rick Gondella. To see if maybe there's some way we can, because they have a budget, quite a budget, it looks like, for field trips, because they pay for transportation for all the field trips that the kids have gone on. And they might get 50, 60 kids. They're going to Boston, in and out of Boston. So I'm trying to get all of the people. I've talked to Senator Tarr. He's very interested in what we're doing, and maybe there'll be some safety money that's out there that maybe we could benefit from. Ed Doby, when he came to meet with me on some budget stuff, I took him upstairs and kind of had him jazzed up about. He thought it was a really good idea. And then Joe Bonavita's been up there, Doug Dawes has been up there. So I'm just trying to, kind of share the stuff. And then what we'll do, once we kind of identify what the money needs to be, then we get a meeting together with all of our group again and figure out like, okay, what can we do this year?
Okay, I was just,
Yeah.
because I didn't see another
Yeah,
one of those, but
yeah.
I can understand, there's no sense meeting if all these things have to
Yeah,
be
we have to put
discussed.
everything in place, but I'm glad you asked.
So, the person, the $40,000 or whatever, that would be a one individual?
It would be a team, it would be a youth coordinator.
Okay,
And then we can utilize some of the community service, the kids at the high school. We might even be able to, Suzanne and I talked about even paying, some people to do, like minimum wage to come over and work. College interns often will wanna do things like that, but it really will depend on how many kids come, right? But you need somebody who's gonna literally plan the programs, be connected to the kids, get them all excited about, but we're hoping to work in coordination with the library and with the Park and Rec to maybe get some programming that way.
okay.
So, yeah, so I think, we're moving, but we wanna do it right, you wanna do it right. But I really feel like it's what the town needs, and, everybody seems to be on board with it. It's just like, okay, how are we gonna do the logistics? And with the budget being what it's gonna be this year, again, I don't know if it could be something that the marijuana money, cause now that's going into the general fund, whether or not the town could identify a bit of money, because that's all about prevention, right? It's, maybe there's a way to make that connection.
Sure.
So we're gonna keep working, try to figure it out, but, yeah.
Okay.
So it should be, and setting the center up will probably be, identifying with a GoFundMe page, not GoFundMe, Sign
Yeah,
Up
the
Genius.
sign up genius, yeah, yep.
I think
That's
we-
good, and that always works out well, because that's what the community members just,
They love to.
they're out there to help. If there's something that you can tell them you need, I know with the makerspace, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
They,
Tina
got their stuff
Tina
so
sent me something today. She said that this gentleman had contacted them with a big, large screen television and wanted to donate it to the center in Newburyport, but they really didn't need it. So she said, if this is something you'd like, here's the guy's name, I'm sure he would be happy to donate it to you if you're starting to accept donations.
Wow.
So we'll follow up with him.
Okay.
So it is good.
So a question that I had for you, Suzanne, is do we have to, I've been following the emails back and forth between you and Tom. Do we have to accept donations this evening?
Not tonight, cause
Okay.
we wanna reconcile with him first.
Okay, all right. So as of right now, everything is.
That's why we
we're not gonna
didn't
do
put him
anything.
on today, because
Okay.
it wasn't quite reconciled.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I also just wanna say for the CPAC, on November seventh, Wednesday, they have an Alice training, Georgetown Police Department Safety Officer Henry Olszewski at the Georgetown Peabody Library, 2 Maple Street, just to, talk to parents, because a lot of, kids with high needs or, learning differences, they are afraid they don't necessarily interpret the Alice
sure, they get anxious,
protocols.
sure.
They get anxious, right. And so, the parents have for a long time talked about, wanting to understand the whole process better and wanting to know what they can do to help their children with this. And so that's what, this meeting will be about. And it's
oh, good.
November 7th at the Peabody Library. Does it have a time? It does not have a time. I would imagine a lot of their events start at 6:45 p.m. So I'm gonna say 6:45 p.m.
Okay. And that same night, November seventh, we have a boosters meeting. I do wanna mention that, we've been meeting. And that boosters meeting will include, the agenda will include a, overview of the athletic, budget, just so people can have a better understanding of the athletic
money
budget
goes.
and, what user fees are actually doing for the program and things like that. And if there is anyone out there that's watching and would like to be a part of boosters, we'd love to have, more involvement.
Yes.
We
Yeah,
have a
definitely.
great group of people and, we have Shannon Dow, that's the president, that will do a fantastic job and she's done a great job recruiting people as it is, but, I think it's really a good, a good program that I think we could really use in our town because of the, troubles that we have with
It'll be a
with
great
athletics.
asset to
Yeah.
athletics, yeah.
So anyone that wants to, that has some spare time and wants to do that, contact, the
Shannon.
superintendent.
Or me,
Right,
we're
I don't know
happy.
Shannon's,
Yeah, we're
email
happy, yeah,
on the
they
top,
can
but-
definitely contact me. I'd be happy to make sure it's to Shannon.
great.
Kim, did you wanna mention about the,
Yes, on November 8th,
Yeah.
at 6:30, from 6:30 to 8:30 at the Georgetown Middle High School Auditorium. We're gonna have a live performance of a theatrical group. And it's a play. It's called Four Legs to Stand On. And I think it's a very kind of real life, raw look at how addiction affects family dynamics. And, just demonstrating how it can happen to anybody. It doesn't discriminate. We have, I think the impetus for this really came about with the opioid crisis, how it's ravaged a lot of Massachusetts. And, it does affect people and families in Georgetown. We're not, an exception really that way, but it's hard to, people need to start talking about it and understanding it, because nobody, on purpose, nobody sets out to become, to become addicted or to, even, get close to that state. It happens because of all these dynamics, and also because of a lot of doctors prescribing pain relievers to, young people, with sports injuries and all kinds of things, and hopefully doctors are learning more about how to give like 7 pills instead of a bottle of 30 pills, and,
Right.
there's all kinds of reasons why it happens, but it is happening a lot across our state, and we thought a responsible thing, it's good to help people understand more about it.
So how did you
And
hear
in
about this?
in a fun, interesting,
Aaron Duggan.
Oh, okay.
entertaining way.
So Georgetown Cares and
Yeah.
PTA
And
are
PTA
co-
collaborate,
yes.
co-funding it.
Yes, Aaron Duggan was
It's just
aware
really
of
important
the
that
group
people
doing
come.
this.
Because, when we have these things, a lot of times people don't come, and even people from Pembroke, in Pearlie, but Pembroke for sure, it's not, you're not dealing with it now, but, nothing says you shouldn't get educated
Yeah.
about it. And the way it's set up, if it goes according to the video I watched of it, is it's a play, but it kind of comes in and out of the play, and in between are actual speakers who have lived through addiction, You know, there's a doctor who talks about, you know, the effective way to treat addictions. And really, it's about, you know, the message they have is, you know, people get cancer and everybody kind of circles around you. But people, you know, dealing with addiction,
Right, it's
that
that
doesn't
stigma
happen,
around
stigma.
it, right.
So I think part of it is, I mean, I think it'll be very powerful, and so I do hope people come. I do hope people
How are
come.
we advertising?
Well, I just put it out on all the Facebook pages. It's going to go, I just put it out to the Georgetown Record. It's gonna be in the Eagle Tribune, it's gonna be in the Newburyport Daily Snooze.
So anybody's welcome. The different
Everybody's,
towns.
everybody's welcome. I mean, we do recommend it more for
For if
adults
you're gonna
and
bring
families.
kids.
Yeah, and middle
Older
school
kids.
and high school, probably not elementary school kids.
Yeah.
I don't think that they would really enjoy it as much. I think middle school and high school kids would understand and recognize. I mean, you know, in almost everybody's family tree, you know, if you go far enough, you'll find people who you know, have these issues, and we wanna be able to help them, we wanna be able to understand. So that's what this is.
What time is it at again, Pam?
It's 6:30 to 8:30, and they're selling tickets on the Georgetown PTA website. They're free tickets.
Yeah, they're not
It's-
selling
it's just-
tickets.
they're not selling tickets, right, sorry.
They wanna
Wrong-
like keep
wrong
track
word.
of.
Just to have an idea of how many people will come, but you're certainly welcome to come if you haven't reserved a ticket.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
fine
put-
too.
I'll put on my blog too.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
So a leg
Yeah.
to stand on.
Four legs
Four
to
legs.
stand
on,
on.
yes.
I'll have to look that up.
Cause it's a family of four. And so
Right.
it's a family of four, which is.
It's a family of four.
That's where the stool comes from.
Right.
Okay, well, thank you for that.
Yeah, I think you'll find it to be very moving.
Yes.
Okay, I don't have anything else on my agenda this evening. We do need to have a brief executive
Very
session. So I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting at 8:07. We do need to go into executive session under chapter 30A, section 21, for the purpose of litigation conversation, and we will not be returning to an open meeting, public meeting. So with that being said, if I could just do a roll call.
Aye.
Aye.
Hi.
Good night.
Thank you, good night.